Welcome, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to Soul Centered. My name is Ariela and we are so honored and excited to have you here this morning on Shabbat during this time of the coronavirus to center your soul and to really find a space inside of your heart that as you sit in your homes, to really find a space inside of your heart to express your deepest longings, prayers, and wishes to the divine, and really open to your spirit, and also surround yourself with love and the relationships inside of your home. I think that's really important to really focus on how we can find our wholeness during Shabbat to better our relationships and to really spread our love.
So again, welcome. I'm Baruch Halevi, Rabbi. We are delighted that you are tuning in to this Shabbat experience. We have lots of experiences all week long, so you can check it out on this website, on our website. Here's the actual information behind us, but for now we're just going to get into the Shabbat experience. It's for anybody, it's for everybody. Although it's grounded clearly in Shabbat and the Jewish experience, it is made accessible. We believe in radical hospitality, welcoming anybody and everybody. It's really just an opportunity to get soul-centered. That's what Shabbat means, to sit, to return, and to breathe. And so we welcome you to join us in all of that. So maybe with that, we'll just find our center with one word, shalom. Shalom means hello, it means goodbye, and it means peace.
Shalom. 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 Shalom.
So every week we have a different theme. Jews around the world are reading from the Torah, the same place, but we're also all getting ready for Passover. Christians are getting ready for Easter, and there's a lot of physical preparation. There's a lot of spiritual, hopefully, preparation. And so we're going to be focused on the spiritual preparation for Passover during the Shabbat. And so we'll keep bringing in reflections and thoughts and ideas on it. But for now, I guess we'll just continue to gather ourselves together, gather virtually together. If you want to see the words, you can get the download on this website, on the Facebook pages or on the website under Media and Downloads. It's called the Soul Sheet, but everything's pretty straightforward. And one of these days we'll actually have it on the screen for you. We're not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm. So we'll start with Hine Matov and Lord, prepare me. And so as we enter into our Shabbat service, we invite you to create a home inside of your soul, to create a makom, a place inside of your soul to rest, to regroup, to rejuvenate. And as Baruch said, as we come into Passover, just really create a kavanah, an intention for yourself that although the world is unknown, the world is difficult and scary right now, that we can create a place inside of us to do our spiritual work.
And hello to Heather and Haley and Reverend Randy. We're excited that you're all here. We actually borrowed this from Reverend Randy's world. He's a Pentecostal preacher, and so this comes from the Christian tradition and merged with the Jewish tradition. And as an aside, we'll be doing a Passover interfaith Seder the second night of Passover because it's so important to bridge these worlds, and hope you join us for that as well.
Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Hi, Susan. Welcome. Thank you. You're beautiful. And thank you for sharing. You're welcome to give us thoughts in the side notes here and reflections, maybe things you're interested in, prayers you want to share, and we'll share them. Also tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, my brother Reverend Randy and I are doing a spiritual preparation for Passover and I'm sure Easter, bringing those two worlds together so you can continue to join us on this quest to ready ourselves for these holy days. So, Passover, Easter, living life is really about this next prayer. Again, it's on your page. Modah. If you ask me to define the word Jew, it comes from the word Todah. And if you're in Israel, it's a very important word. Not enough Israelis always say it, but we need to say it. Todah, thank you. Thank you. Modah on your sheet, or you can just open your heart and say thank you to the source.
So perhaps you place a hand upon your heart and just feel your beating heart, taking a deep breath in and centering yourself before our prayer. And just really connecting to the divine and to that beautiful essence of who you are as we begin our song. Modeani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam. Modeani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam. Modeani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam. Modeani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam.
So as we begin to open up in gratitude, the end of that is Rabbi Munatecha, 2 words which just mean simply that there is divine abundance when we open ourselves up and think in terms of abundance and not scarcity. Passover, although we're minimizing our material stuff, we're getting rid of the bread products which represent materiality, we're replacing it with spirituality, and there's always plenty when we stop looking at the physical and we start going into the spiritual. Rabba Emunatecha.
So again, closing your eyes and placing your hands possibly open at your lap and just feel the abundance of the divine when we connect, asking for the divine to be present in our lives. Rabba Emunatecha, Rabba Emunatecha, Rabba Emunatecha, Munatecha, Rabba
Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha, Munatecha Rabba, Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha, Munatecha Rabba, Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha, Munatecha Rabba,
Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha Rabba, Emunatecha,
you don't even need words. Ya 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 So the words are so irrelevant, right? It's the emotion and the feelings that they evoke. Words are just kind of a means to get there. And so sometimes in the Kabbalistic mystical tradition, there will be no words. It's just ya, 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 na, 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 oi, oi, oi. And a friend of mine once said that last one, they're more of kind of a Hindu Buddhist, and they said, Rama, Rabba, Rama, whatever. It's the same thing, right? It's supposed to open your heart. So whether or not you know the words, these are all grounded in ancient ideas that have withstood the test of time to help us open our minds and our hearts and our spirits. And so with that, we haven't done this one yet. Maybe we can do Le'olam. It's a lot of words, but it's beautiful. The words really just mean we should live with integrity, integral life. Integrity from its deepest sense is when the whole is together, and when we're living on the outside as we're living on the inside, and those two align. And that's what Passover is. It's making sure that our inner world and our outer world are aligned in simplicity and goodness and love and truth. I'm going to leave this one?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Le'olam yehe Adam Yireh Shamayim Beseter Galui Umodeh al ha'emet v'dovemet milvavo v'yashem v'yomar. Ariela, we'll just leave you in the sound. Nigun le'olam yehe Adam Yireh Shamayim Beseter galui modeh al ha'emet v'doremet bilvavo v'yashrei v'yomar. One last time. Ya 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 Person should live life with reverence and awe in a constant state of integrity. Again, living when our inside matches our outside and there is no distance. At that moment, we are dvekut, the Kabbalists say, we are one with the divine.
So let's continue with Ashrei. This is a beautiful prayer and a joyous song, a prayer to remember that when we step inside our intuition and when we step inside our bodies and when we step inside the house of Adonai, of the divine, we can feel this internal joy. So often, especially in these times, we wake up and we think, oh, another day. And so to remember to place ourselves in the house of the divine allows us to conjure up that inner sense of joy, not the outside happiness. Because if we relied on outside happiness, we would be disappointed. And so really just feeling that inner part of your soul to increase the joy inside of you.
Ashrei is the first line from Psalm 145, if you're interested.
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Actually, the basis of my blog this past week about Blaise Pascal, who said that all of a person's, humanity's problems can be solved when we are able to sit and be alone and be essentially comfortable with who we're alone with. And so really the same idea. And no matter what you're going through, Ashrei isn't happy, right? It's translated as happy, it's joy, right? And even if you're deep in grief over loss of a loved one, there may be no happiness, but you can always find a place of joy.
So I think we should continue with OZ because it's not on our song sheet, but OZ is a song about God's strength. And so when if we've lost people, if we're going through tough times, if we're ill, the idea is to conjure up not only that inner joy, but that inside, deep inside of us, releasing the body's self, there is a soul. And inside of our soul is untouchable. That nothing can touch the strength inside of our soul, so that no matter what we're dealing with in our lives right now, whether big, small, or everything in between, there is a peace and a beautiful essence inside of us that nothing can touch, and that is our inner strength. Ozi vezimrat Vayahili Lishua Ozi Vezimrat Vayahili Lishua Ozi Vezimrat Vayahili Lishua Ozi Vezimrat Vayahili Yai-dai-dai, yai-dai-dai-dai, yai-dai-dai, 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 yai-dai-dai-dai,
Shabbat Shalom, Heather. Shabbat Shalom, David, Dudu. Shabbat Shalom, Betty and John and Paul and Jan and Ann. We are delighted that you are joining us. We are just making the journey from slavery to redemption, from Egypt to Israel, from our inner constraints to being free, and that's really what Shabbat is, and the journey of Passover. And so we're marching through kind of this journey using the Shabbat liturgy, but very loosely, more of the keva, the structure of it. And so we've gone from kind of what's called Birkot HaShachar, gratitude, blessings, into the Psukei de Zimra, which are psalms to open our mind and our heart. And now we're transitioning into what's called the Shachrit, which is the morning experience. We have morning, afternoon, and evening traditionally. And just taking bits and pieces from our tradition to help us feel this journey. And so really comes down to this idea of, are we awake? Are we awake on our journey? Who's driving the bus, right? Because if we're on autopilot, then it's not us, certainly not our soul at the center. Something else is at the center. And so we continue with Am I Awake? Again, on your soul sheets, you can download from the media page on soulcenter.org, but you can also just listen and open your hearts with us.
So we'll start first with a nigun, a wordless tune. Yana-nai-nai-nai, 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 yana-nai-nai-nai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayers? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yana-nai-nai-nai, 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 yana-nai-nai-nai.
So the Shmas is the central tenet of the Jewish tradition taken from the Torah, and it's the verse that probably most Jewish people know. If they know a verse, it's this one, and it's just about listening. I mean, and that's what we're doing on Shabbat and the Sabbath. We're shutting out the outside world, the outside noise, and we're just listening. And so we'll do just one breath per word, again, on your sheet, but you can just also really do what it's telling us to. Shema means to listen.
Also, I invite you as we begin the Shema to just close your eyes, and this is a meditative prayer, a meditative invitation to, as Baruch said, to listen, but to create silence. How do we listen? And we have to create silence first to be able to open our ears and our hearts to listen. And so I'd like you to imagine, if you can, a beautiful talit, a prayer shawl, just wrapping around you by the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, the divine feminine presence of God. And so just imagine that she's just enveloping you with her wings and the talit, the prayer shawl, and closing out the noise in the world so that you can come into your deepest space inside of you as we begin the Shema.
So we sit, Shabbat, Leshevet. We return to Shuvah, same word. And we feel ourselves, right, growing in power. That's what I teach myself and really people I guide, is to own your power. I believe that that's what Passover is about, is reclaiming our power. We outsource our power to the pharaohs, to other. And slowly, we do it over time, and we just lose ourselves, constantly, continuously giving away our power, giving away our power. So Passover is about taking back your power. And for Christians, Easter is about taking back your power, your connection with your Messiah. And so we really could just continue down this journey of embodying this on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning tomorrow, through sitting, through returning, through centering ourselves. And that's what the Amidah is, this next prayer. We don't have the words here, we just have the opening, which means, God, source, help me take back my power and speak my truth, my power to you and you alone. And so the words Adonai Sivatai are on your sheet, but again, it's really just about owning your power. Either stand and enter into the traditional Amidah, the standing prayer, and you'll have the words if you're interested. And you can just sit like us and find some quiet in yourself, in your life, to make room for the source, for the divine, for God.
And as we breathe in and we breathe out, feeling the divine flow within us, we end our silent prayer with Oseh Shalom, imagining creating peace within our hearts and spreading that to the people inside of our homes, to the people we connect with distantly, and to the world. Spreading peace, making peace, spreading shalom. Oseh Shalom B'Rama, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
That's just a prayer for shalom, for peace, for individually, for each of us, and for collectively, for all of us. Kabbalah teaches that if we do tikkun nefesh, if we work on ourselves, we repair ourselves, that spills out and over into the world. And so may this continue, this work of going inwards, continue to spill out outwards, to bring shalom, to bring peace to the world. So we're going to do a conversation, kind of the central component of a Jewish service is the conversation, but I'm going to begin with a nigun, so we're going to maybe switch. Ariela, this isn't her nigun, this is mine. I got it. I don't know where I got it from, but it's really Native American in feel to me, and I love it. It's called Earth and Sky, and I've been singing it a lot. Because it's powerful, and I really gravitate towards the Native American tradition and the chanting. There's so much overlap in the Jewish mystical and the Native American traditions, and I think we've made a mistake in the Jewish tradition getting too wordy, texty, intellectual, and so bringing it back to this primal and grounding it in the basics like earth and sky, and you'll hear the words, and you can just sing it without words, but it goes like this. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. Hey ya, 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 oh. Mother Earth, Fathers, you do the back of our heads. Drop of water, heat of fire. I can feel it in my body, in my spirit, and in my soul. Yeah. Mother Earth, Father Sky, heat of fire, drop of water. I can feel it in my body, in my spirit, in my soul. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Next time I'll bring the Hebrew. No, that's too much for one time. So we're going to talk today again. Every Shabbat, every Saturday, Jews around the world are reading from the same place in the Torah, in the Bible. And there's a man climbing up out of a tree out there. Interesting. That doesn't happen very often.
Wow, there
is. Some dude is climbing up our tree.
Wow.
Just another day in paradise.
Another sign from God.
So that was our last conversation on Thursday. Signs from God.
Signs from God.
Angels.
I don't know what it means.
Now he's chopping down
our tree.
Mother Earth, Father Sky, chop my tree. Okay. So the Torah is how we march along and keep in rhythm, in time. But we do break from it to pick up on the calendar. And so we kind of part ways from it. Oh, great. If you hear a chainsaw, it's the dude outside my window chopping down my tree.
I have no idea.
It's just interesting.
Okay, here it comes. Oh my God.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. So, just my tree. Not a big deal. We got like 4 more.
We actually don't have that many.
Okay. It's hard to recover when you see a big 250-pound bald guy
I'm not a very big tree.
With a chainsaw outside your window. I don't know. Just maybe it's me.
Okay.
What's up? Shabbat Shalom. Okay. Do we need to go save a tree? I think it was actually scheduled. I don't know why.
I think it was because as you look, there's a tree that has fallen on our neighbor's home.
Yeah. It looks like he's very thoughtful about it. He's very mindful.
Hopefully. Wow, he's really big.
And the tree's getting smaller. All right, Here we go. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. So, Passover. We're going to talk about the inner preparation, the spiritual preparation. Again, my brother, Reverend Randy Caldwell, and I tonight are at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll be touching more on this. But it's really, if from the outside looking in, it looks kind of like craziness, right? Matzah, right? This bread, this unleavened bread that's mentioned multiple times in the book of Exodus and I think elsewhere. We're supposed to replace our leavened bread, which is called chametz, hard word, I know, chametz, with matzah. This leavened bread, and then all the products that kind of come along with it. And there's 5 different grains. You're supposed to go through your closets. It's kind of this kind of OCD madness of getting all of this bread-like product out of your house, replacing it with matzah. At the surface level, it can just look like, it's just a physical activity. And if that's all it is, I think it's a missed opportunity. We both believe that there's a deeper level or layer going on. And we wanted to talk about kind of the difference between matzah, the unleavened bread, and the chametz, the leavened bread.
So when you think about the difference between chametz and matzah, like regular bread versus matzah. So matzah is the same on the inside and outside. There's no difference. You see, whatever you see is what you get, right? Chametz is filled with difference from, like, there's a big difference from the outside and the inside.
Right.
So when you think about again, we are all about taking this physical holiday and bringing it into our lives spiritually. So when you think about wholeness, I think of wholeness and being true to yourself is who are you on the outside versus the inside? And I always tell this to my kids, I know this is a little deep for children, but can your insides match your outsides? Do they all match up? So the idea of wholeness is during this time of Passover is to remember that we essentially, our goal spiritually is to be the same on the outside as we are on the inside. Because if you think of the puffed upness of bread, who are you showing to the world? And is it in line with who you are on the inside of yourself?
I mean, that's what soul-centered is this idea, and I teach it, I try and live it, but I teach it to my clients and people I guide. The most important thing in this lifetime is, I don't believe, is to tell the truth to the world. We live in a world of lies and white lies, and it's important. It's something to strive towards. But the starting point to get there is to tell the truth to yourself, right? And I believe that the pathway to hell is when I'm working with the client and they're lying to me. I don't care. I don't take it personally. It's not about me. If you can't create a space, whether it's with your pastor, your rabbi, your counselor, your therapist, your spouse, that it's true, you'll lose your foothold, right? You'll lose your foundation. If you lose the ability to be true on the inside, it's just a slow descent into hell. And so what do? We get rid of all of this falseness from our lives during Passover to reduce and get back to that point of truth.
Right. And I think when you hit on the point of truth, what you do is you create real freedom. Right now, especially, the story of Passover is all about telling the story and the history. We are going through something historical ourselves. We are going through a state of I don't want to say slavery, but our own personal historical slavery, if you will.
What is slavery? Tell them what Mitzrayim means.
Yeah, I was going to say Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is this state of narrowness and confinement.
That's Egypt.
Mitzrayim
and Egypt are the same thing.
Right. So when we remove, even right now with what we're dealing with in our world, can you, maybe even on Shabbat, like today we decided that we are not using electronics after this. Well, right now we are. But we have told our children that today is a day free of all electronics, to center yourself, to center your soul. So what happens when you can release some of this outside noise, even though we need the news and we need to know what's going on, if we could reduce it and come inside of ourselves, that is freedom. That when you can also look inside of yourself, like you said, when we tell the truth about who we are, that also is a sense of freedom. And that's what the message of Passover is.
Well, and it's also dealing with addiction. I work a lot with people who are overcoming addiction. My favorite people in the world are people who are in recovery, because they get to this point where it's about honesty and truth and building and repair. And it's the Passover holiday, right? Of overcoming the things that are enslaving us. I mean, that's what addiction is outsourcing your power to an object, to a thing, to an experience. And there's all kinds of addictions. And we're all addicts, by the way, of different things. And we're seeing that now, that we're going inwards, and we can't so easily shop. And we can't so easily escape with football or with, you name the distraction. There's a hierarchy of addictions. I'm not saying they're all equal and equally destructive, but the moment we're not driving the bus, the moment we're not deciding how we're responding, we've just, again, outsourced our power to a Pharaoh, to a Egypt, to an other. And so it's about reclaiming, right? What's ours?
So when I guide people and I guide myself, I take that the next step. And so how do we reclaim, and how do we own our power, and how do we become free? It's the addictions that we all have aren't going to just magically go away because someone said that we can't go shopping in the mall. The addictions come into our homes and inside of our bodies ultimately, which is the ultimate home. And so the idea is to process the feelings that you're feeling with the things that you can't do right now, with the constraint and the Mitzrayim that you feel right now. There is a freedom. It's inside of here. But if we skip the step, which I love this idea, Jeff Brown calls it, I don't know if he coined it, but spiritual bypassing. When we skip the steps, even during Pesach, this important step, you can clean out your home. You can reduce the noise level. You can deal with and acknowledge your addictions, but that is just one step. The next step is to deal with the intense emotions which comes up when we can't deal and when we can't have what we want. So that's the next step into freedom.
And there's a danger in halakha, Jewish law, or in any spiritual practice when the means becomes more important than the ends. When you just clean out your cupboards and get rid of all the chametz, the bread products, and you don't do this inner work. right? I think it was the Kutzker Rabbi, a great mystical rabbi, said even a mitzvah, even a commandment can become idolatrous if we forget where it's pointing us. And so we do this work externally to experience it internally.
Right.
And it's a nuance. The word matzah, again, the unleavened bread, and chametz, the leavened bread, are almost the same words, just rearranged. In Hebrew, the only difference is one of them has a letter hey and one of them has a chet. And the only difference between a hey and a chet, if you look it up, is a little space the hey has that the chet doesn't have. And one of the mystical commentaries says the difference between slavery and freedom is sometimes just slight degrees, slight intention, right? Maybe the same outward thing, money or sex or food or hobbies, for somebody can be a place of freedom, but for others slips into a place of addiction. And just paying attention in our lives of the outside things that we're doing, are we mindful? And the moment we bring mindfulness to it, we reclaim our power and the purpose of the means to get us to a deeper, healthier end.
I think in conclusion, we can say that ultimately, when we struggle with the chametz in our life, or the mitzrayim, the tightness, or the puffed upness, what we have after we clear those things, after we feel it, after we get down to it, is our relationship with the divine. And ultimately, whether you call it God or your high self, whatever that is, when you can feel that connection inside of you, and maybe it's asking for, praying and asking for divine guidance to help us center ourselves, that is true freedom. When we can release our attachment to the worldly and attach ourselves to the oneness, then we have found the ultimate meaning of Passover.
If you want more of this before Ariela does a final reading, second night Passover, which is Thursday night at 6 p.m., I think, Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, doing an interfaith Seder with Reverend Randy Caldwell. And it'll be relatively short, maybe a half hour, but we'll touch on some of this, and you can see it kind of at a Passover Seder level, and I'll get you more information about that.
So a reading called Egypt Inside by Alden Solovey. This I confess, I have taken Egypt with me. I have kept myself a slave to grief and loss, fear, anger, and shame. I have set myself up as taskmaster, driving myself beyond the limits of reasonable time and common sense. I've seen miracles from heaven, signs and wonders in my own life, yet I've taken Egypt with me. Still waiting for the heavens to speak. God of redemption, with your loving and guiding hand, leaving Egypt is easy. Leaving Egypt behind is a struggle. In your wisdom, you have given me this choice, to live in a tyranny of my own making, or to set my heart free to love you, to love your people, and to love myself. God of freedom, help me to leave Egypt behind, to hear your voice, to accept your guidance, and to see the miracles in each new day. Blessed are you, God of wonder. You set your people on the road to redemption.
Maybe pure heart.
Yeah. So we'll continue our service with Pure Heart. It's in your song sheet. And it's just remembering exactly that prayer, is to create a pure heart inside of us so that we can reach out to the divine.
And it's based on Psalm 51, verse 12, if you're interested.
Create a pure heart in me, Great Spirit. Create a pure heart in me. Create a pure heart in me, Great Spirit. Create a pure heart in me, and renew a true soul within me, and renew a true soul within, and renew a true soul within me, and renew a true soul within.
So traditionally at this point we have a healing service. We'll do a short healing service. We don't want to go too long. But it's an opportunity for you to draw down strength and energy from the divine, from the source of healing, or to send it out to the world. And again, welcome to everybody, Sam, Leah, Susan, Chad, Adrian, Ellen. We're so glad that you're tuning in right now, and we send you our love and our prayers as you send out your love and your prayers.
So again, we invite you to, as we begin this portion of our service, to write in the chat anybody that needs prayers, you yourself or loved ones that you know, or you can also write and think about, as we begin our healing service, to really think about our frontline workers, doctors, nurses, grocery store clerks, people in the pharmacy, people who are cleaning our streets, people who are taking our trash out,
Cutting down our trees,
people who are stocking our shelves. So we just really send our hearts right now and our thoughts and prayers to all of our frontline workers, to all people suffering from the coronavirus, and all people who are ill, who are just in need of our deep prayers right now. And so as I begin the song, you're welcome to just join in the chat and just share your loved ones' names. Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of their wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know where they are. Healer of the brokenhearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know who we are. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Ana elna refana, hallelujah, hallelujah, Ana elna refana.
So we'll, before we conclude, we'll end with just remembering those who came before us. Every Jewish prayer service, we remember who came before us. And I'm actually doing kind of a high-level PowerPoint sermon motivational talk that I'll be sending out on the greatest generation and how we can turn to them. We must turn to them during times like this. My grandpa Jack, somebody I think of, and I'm sure you have yours, who really embodied all of the ideals of the greatest generation: self-sacrifice, self-transcendence of serving others, self-determination, choice. And now more than ever before, we send out our call to those who came before us to help guide us through us and give us that same level of courage and strength. And also for anybody who's just lost a loved one or in a period of grief and mourning, my thoughts are with you as your thoughts are with your loved ones.
So again, we invite you, if you'd like to write their names in the chat, and we'll begin our song. Just feel free to share with us, to open your hearts, and really think about the best memory you have of your loved ones. Picture it in your mind, the very best one. And just breathe it in and know that that's always here for you. Even if their physical body is gone, their soul is still present here for you. Yekada vekadash Shemei Rabba Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevorach Leolam lo me'almaya Yekada vekadash Shemei Rabba Yehi Shemer Rabba V'Vorah Le'olam Le'almaya. May the one within and above bless us with your love. May the source of infinite light guide us in our life. May the one within and above bless us with your love. May the source of infinite light guide us in our life. Shalom, 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 shalom.
And our holy soul sister, Susan Eckers, says prayers to the many struggling with depression during this time of isolation. And so maybe we'll end with this Buddhist prayer, since also that's kind of touching on Susan's spirit as well. May all beings everywhere plagued with sufferings of body and mind and spirit quickly be freed from their illnesses. May those frightened cease to be afraid, and may those bound become free. May the powerless find power in many, and may people think of befriending one another. May those who find themselves in trackless, fearful wilderness, the children, the aged, the unprotected, all of us, be guarded by beneficent celestial beings, and may they swiftly attain enlightenment and freedom. And I'll just add that journey of Passover or Easter, right? The returning to a place of inner freedom so that we can all experience this true freedom that the opportunity of coronavirus is giving us to get beyond ourselves, to serve one another, and to live a life of love.
Amen.
And with that, maybe we'll just end with that simple idea that love is all there is.
Yai 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 Love, love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love, love is all there is. Love is all there is. Love is all there is. Yai, 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 yai,
So a lot going on in the world, but not nearly as much as going on online. There's so many different opportunities and offerings right now as a response to all of the chaos and the fear out in the world. And I think it's a beautiful thing, and we just wanted to contribute to that. And so we are offering soul-centered experiences almost every day around 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. East Coast Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm not going to go around the world, but you'll figure it out. We are delighted to be offering this, to be able to offer this to you. Every night is a different experience. This is the Shabbat-centered experience built around the framework of Shabbat. But we also have the healing experience. It's Ariela's. the meaning experience, which is mine, the soul experiences, which is shared, and lots of other things coming up. A Passover preparation tonight with, again, Reverend Randy Caldwell. You can tune in here later for that. Or the second night, Passover Seder, Interfaith Seder. And what else do we have going on?
If you'd like to join us after this Shabbat experience, usually we go right into a live yoga class. Today I've pre-recorded it, so that will go up right after this. So part of the Shabbat experience, part of any experience, is to take it in and then experience it inside of your body. So really the Shabbat yoga is just an extension of our prayers and our thoughts and our words and our songs. So I invite you to, when this is over, to grab your mat, even if you don't have one, just move your body and really experience Shabbat inside an embodiment experience.
And so with that, thank you for joining us. Keep checking back in. Shoot us emails. Go to mysoulcenter.org, or you can just Google Rabbi B and you'll get to mysoulcenter.org. Love to hear from you. Love to hear what you're interested in. Share your prayers, your readings, your songs that you'd like us to incorporate, and we can definitely consider. We're just looking for best spiritual practice. Don't care where it comes from. Does it all get us to this place of living soul-centered lives? That's the goal. And so with that, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom, salam, namaste.
Namaste.
Peace.